The social media minimum age restriction is coming to Australia, mate. And granted, this thing is going on typically around the world, right? We're seeing this happen in the UK, various other countries, some form of digital ID. I love the fact that this has come to Australia, mate. And so many people seem to be so compliant with this, not understanding the overarching implications of what this means. It's almost as if Australians, so many of them having descended from convicts, they become so compliant. They just bought into this we must do as we're told mentality, as opposed to having the spirit of resistance. Anyway, I say that in jest. I know there are many people that aren't on board with it, but they just feel as if they have to go along because it is what it is, right? But need I remind people that all you need to do if you don't want to do something is just not comply with it. And if enough people do it, I mean, that legislation magically just disappears. This is how effectively pretty much all of these mandates work. Often governments work under the color of law and they do things that they technically don't have a right to do, that violate the Constitution. And yes, Australia does have one. And because enough people don't disregard these mandates, they just feel compelled to do things because they fall under this influence of mass formation consensus, and they just feel as if they must comply because they have their own lives to be concerned about. They just comply with this shit. And as a result, we see more and more totalitarian measures being implemented. But let's talk about this legislation. Essentially, what this legislation is doing is December 10th, the Australian government has put this legislation in place where social media companies now have to put appropriate measures to restrict anyone under the age of 16, Australian minors, from being able to access social media. And what this means is that the only way to do this is to do this indiscriminately. These social media companies doing this through perhaps facial recognition or some kind of government identification will need to identify every single individual. That's you. That's me, regardless of what your age is. And what this effectively means now is bazinga. The government now knows exactly who you are when you were using social media. And now they can monitor thought crimes. Now when you say something that goes against the general consensus, even though the media has gotten so many things wrong in the past. I mean, need I go back to the whole situation a few years back with this magic, dangerous thing that was going around the air and killing so many people, and the magic potions that were so safe and effective? Well, anyway, needless to say that, well, they weren't as safe and effective as they were supposed to be. I think it's pretty fair to say, right? But besides the point, the media gets things wrong all the time. And when you show dissent, go against this kind of stuff, you usually get a lot of public backlash. And sometimes the media coordinates with the government and tries to put people in jail for saying things. I mean, did anyone see the video of that woman that made a post on Facebook about going to some kind of protest or something like that and ended up being visited by police officers and being arrested for simply expressing her viewpoints? Now imagine how much easier it is to do that kind of stuff when everyone is identified on social media now. Now everything that you say that someone doesn't like, and all it takes is some crazy legislation to be put in place to say, well, you said something that could be considered to be harmful and dangerous, and that legislation is already in place. You have the Omnibus Bill and so forth in Australia, mate, which essentially allows people to be locked up in jail now for expressing ideas that are considered to be heinous. And this is how this shit works. So fundamentally, all you're really doing when you comply with this kind of stuff is you're making it easier for the government to essentially restrict your freedom of speech and lock you up in a jail cell for expressing the truth. And of course, people are concerned about the vulnerable. It's always the case, though. You're concerned about whether it's grandma or the underages and so forth, how social media is being so negative towards them. Let's be real about this. Here's the thing. Your kids can be just as negatively influenced by your grandparents that have some kind of archaic worldview that's not in line with yours. Would you agree with that? And your kids could be negatively influenced by the information that they disseminate. The internet is simply just another manifestation of that. Yes, it has the potential to have information that we could say is dangerous, but also it has the potential to have a lot of beneficent information that to go into the thoughts of these kids. I mean, they could listen to erudite intellectuals like myself and actually be truly educated about the world. It works both ways. Everything is potentially dangerous. The idea of wanting to not just restrict kids from being able to access the entire world effectively is not only unwise, but it is stupid. If there is going to be any kind of regulation that is taking place, well, let it take place in the homes of these kids. And look, quite frankly, I don't think parents are going to be able to fully do that either, because the reality is, unless you're watching your children 24/7, you can't prevent what they're going to be exposed to. But that's life. Deal with it. You don't deal with it by trying to impose totalitarian measures on the rest of the world. I mean, people that have this mentality that, look, they can somehow sacrifice everyone else's life, people's freedoms, because they're concerned about what happens to their children, what happens to them. I don't have a lot of respect for people like that. I'm just going to be honest. I don't. And it's one thing wanting to protect your children, but it's the things that you're willing to do in order to achieve that determine whether or not you are a moral person or just a totalitarian. Well, enough said. Ladies and gentlemen, freaks and geeks, let us know in the comments below what you think about the social media minimum age restriction. Until next time, peace!